Hello again everyone, and welcome back to Victoria 3. My name is Derail, and today I'm going to be showing you how to get the perfect America start in patch 1.7 Sphere of Influence. This is a relatively easy strategy to use, and you can use it to conquer all the land that America took in the Mexican-American War, as well as banning slavery and beating the Confederates by around 1840, or maybe even 1839. Without any further ado though, let's launch right into this. When you're first loading in as America, the first thing you want to do is make a power block. These are a new feature as part of 1.7, and you can see pretty much all the other great powers, except for France, end up having one. You can form one here, name it, and customize it however you want, and you're going to go with Ideological Union as your central identity pillar. In terms of your mandate, you're going to go for Creative over Ideological. The reason you're going to want to go for this is it reduces the chance to stall. Once you do that, you can form your power block, and this will make a lot of the great powers pretty angry. However, it will not make France angry as they are not part of a power block at the game start. We're going to use this to our advantage by going over to Diplomacy and Interactions, improve relations with them, and also we're going to be getting a trade agreement. If you don't have enough influence at the start of the game, that's totally fine. You can just declare a rivalry with Spain. There we go, we now have a trade agreement with France. In terms of technology, you can kind of go for whatever you want. The strategy doesn't really depend on you going for anything in particular. And in terms of buildings, you're going to go over to your military tab, upgrade all units, go to your Army of Observation, and add a few more infantry in Vermont and New York. I've added 6 total, 3 in each state, but you can add more or less depending on what you want to do. Next, in terms of politics, we're going to immediately begin bolstering the bourgeois, as well as the intelligentsia. As well as this, we're going to take a look at the Exiled Agitators tab, and we're going to just make a reference note on these. For now, I think you can pick up Giuseppe Mazzini. He is not too bad, and he will also boost the intelligentsia quite a bit. At this point, you should be good to get the game going for a few days, waiting until France hits you up with that trade agreement accepted. Once that is done, you can go to war with Mexico, conquer state, Mexican Colorado. For this Young Joseph event, you can kind of just go with whatever you want. I would say university tours and lectures and nothing more. This will give you some interest group strength, which will be very good in the upcoming election, which is in this year. In terms of your army, once you've declared war on Mexico, you can mobilize it all and just send it to the front line. Mexico starts at war with Texas, and they pretty much win every time, which is totally fine for you, because one of your first conquer goals is going to be on Mexican Texas, and if they take this part of Texas, well, that just goes right back to you when you win the war. Also take Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, California, and finally Mexican Utah. And lastly, with the remaining mandate, you can get a Mexican war reparations and add it to your primary demands. Don't add the rest of these to your primary demands. They will just inflate your infamy. There is no reason for you to do that. You should be good to go. In terms of your monetary situation, if you want to, you can make a consumption tax on tobacco, but it really is up to you. The situation is not as bad as it looks. America starts with a huge amount of reserves. It is not a big deal. Also, make sure you set up a designate as a strategic objective on Mexico City. I forget to do this more often than I should. It just makes the war go a little bit quicker. By the time the war begins, you should be good to go and already just completely obliterating the Mexican army. I know it may not look like it at the moment, but that's just because there's a huge amount of issues with armies just moving incredibly slowly, which is totally fine. We will win this war. Also, the American-British Society has established, or wants us to establish, an embargo against Russia. That is totally fine, we'll look into that. And also, we will permit debate on the raised issues for the petitioners over here. So we'll go over to Russia, and we'll make an embargo on them, sure. That's part of the new lobby system, by the way. It just makes them pretty happy if we do stuff like that. And the industrialists are a part of it, which is fine. In terms of other stuff you want to build during this period, it's just anything that's currently expensive. You can go for something like paper, for example. And there we go. We should be winning the war fairly quickly, and if we're not at game start, that's totally fine. We will get the last group over over there. In terms of the election, you don't want to do anything to benefit the Democratic Party. You want to go for things like the evangelicals or literally anybody else, like the Whigs, for example. The Whigs should eventually pull away in terms of their victory. It should be a clean sweep. If you're really struggling with it, I guess you could restart your game, but it's so early on that it doesn't really matter for you too much anyway. You should end up winning this war totally fine, even if you have a few hiccups with the army system. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's what we have to use for now, so we'll deal with it. And here we want more momentum for the Whig Party. They should get even more momentum there and should win, all things considered, by early December. Alrighty. So as you can see, the Whig Party won 78% of the votes, which is great. We're going to get rid of the Southern planters from government, we're going to have a contested government, and we're immediately going to go for slavery banned. By this point, you should be able to get close to having a defensive pact or an alliance with France. If you're not there yet, that's totally fine. You will still keep improving relations with them. It could also just be because, you know, you're at war with Mexico and they don't want to do that right now. Once you take Mexico City, they should be done very quickly. Also, you may notice that a revolution will begin soon. That is totally fine and part of the strategy. I am not particularly worried about that. You're going to want to do things to make the Civil War happen a little less quickly. So if you're able to, make that happen. Also, go for the upgraded institutions here. I wouldn't go for the upgraded law enforcement at game start. I forgot to do education. That's totally a me problem. You don't want to go for law enforcement as it does buff the Southern planters. Wait until you can pass like dedicated police force right after this is done. Alrighty, there we go. We have won the Mexican-American War. Let's check on France. They don't want to be our ally just yet, but we are at 49 total relations, so I'm not too worried about that. There we go, they've now hit 50 relations, they are amicable with us, and we can make an alliance with them. Once the alliance is made, you've pretty much won the challenge. There will be a civil war in all likelihood, but even if there is, it doesn't matter by this point, because you will be able to just call France in and win the war by just having France do all the work. So as you can see, the Civil War has begun, the Southern Declaration of Succession. You're going to go for a house divided against itself cannot stand for the Union. We're going to have most of our army be on the main front, with a smaller grouping on Washington, D.C. specifically. We can also wait for a minute until we get to the next stage. You may also get the Emancipation Proclamation, by the stroke we shall save the Union. This will immediately ban slavery. And also, you can now sway France with Call Ally. By this point, you should also have the ability to go for whatever you want. If you want to get rid of local police force and get dedicated, you can do that. You can go for laissez-faire. You can go for things like universal suffrage if you really wanted to. There's a lot you can do here. For now, I'm thinking universal suffrage might be the best option. Yeah, that doesn't really piss too many people off, and also it's great for early game. And then we can just counter that with a laissez-faire afterwards to make the industrialists pretty happy. So as you can see, France will eventually send army units over if they think you're going to lose, but for now I think it's totally fine. I'm not really too worried. They actually have their guys over in France, which I find very entertaining. Oh, there we go. They think they're sending over 25 units. So that's totally fine, and we're just winning the war anyway, so it doesn't even matter. This is why you want to build up a few more units in the early game. We've already taken their capital in Virginia, which is great. And now we're just winning pretty much everywhere else as well. So they are about to capitulate to us, and by this point you should have won the early game challenge for America, and in this case it's by the end of 1838, not even by 1839. So it's 1838, just a couple years after game start. You've taken all the land in the Mexican-American War, you have a stable ally in France, you have your own power block, it is pretty cohesive, you're on your way to getting the rest of the mandates, although, let me be honest, it's going to take quite a while for you. You have a government that is super set up to do things like laissez-faire, dedicated police force, universal suffrage. You can do pretty much whatever you want, and you can get into Reconstruction. This isn't the greatest part of the game, I'm going to be honest. You do have to reincorporate the entirety of the South, and you will be bleeding money a little bit, but that is a small price to pay to have a very good governmental setup within 2 years of game start. It's shocking how easy it is at this point to just completely ball out and just blob in the South American area when it comes to getting countries into your power block. You can also do a bunch of things domestically, build up your economy. From this point, the world is your oyster. You're able to do pretty much whatever you want, and there is nothing that can really stop you other than the fact that ideological union is currently bugged to where it just lowers cohesion over time, but that should be fixed within a couple days. I really don't think there is a better start in this game, except maybe Britain's. This is really, really solid, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe down below, as well as check out the other video on this channel. There will hopefully be more in the near future. Thank you once again so much for watching, and yeah, see you guys next time.